Welcome to Balanced, where we try to look at issues of today, the current events, to see if we're being manipulated or being told the truth. And a lot of the times it's manipulation, and then we have to sort through it and try to figure out what the actual truth is. I'm here with Dr. Paulette Clark, and I wanted to say something a little bit personal before we get started. She is a mentor to me. She's teaching me. I'm learning a lot. Just starting on a new show. And so what you don't see is that off camera, I get given instructions on how to improve, how to do better. But hey, she's taken the time to do this for me, help me, and I have all the appreciation in the world for her, even if she does, as you see, drink something weird.
Well, it's not weird. So listen, y'all, before we came on the show, I said, hey, Dave, I need to give me 5 minutes. I want to go grab some water. So I come back and I say, oh, I got my water, da-da-da. And you said, well, that's okay. It looks like wine. And I said, no, actually, this is water. This is collagen, and it's a collagen peptide mix. And it has all of your probiotics in it as well. And I also take magnesium citrate. So that's what's in this cup. And also ashwagandha. And you said...
I said, I have sweet tea. That's
sweet
my
tea.
basic what I go to.
And what is so funny about that is it is just from the fact of what we're drinking here today to whet our palates as we're having this conversation is how night and day and different in our views and some of the things that we talk about here on the show and even behind the scenes, right? So I can have my teas and so forth, but then I really, really, really am into this whole, let me stop Mother Nature because I don't like her very much and I'm going to do everything I can. And then you're just like, oh, so genteel. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to have my sweet tea over here. And I just thought that was it was so balanced, if you will. There you go. That's my humor for the day.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're drinking. It just sounds weird to me.
It's okay. Yep, it's good. So what's on the topics for today?
Well, we spoke last week and we touched on some things and wound up talking a lot about abortion, which was very passionate. I appreciated it. I felt really good about that. And today I wanted to actually talk about and start with our border, because that is such a hot topic in the news, in politics, and at least we have some background on how long these things have been going on. And let's start off with border security.
Okay.
Let's take it back.
Okay.
Let's take it back. Let's take it back to immigration coming across illegally has been going on decades.
Okay.
But let's take it back to the Obama administration.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What one side doesn't want you to really understand or know is that President Barack Obama deported more illegals than any other president in history.
Okay.
He also built cells, politically they go cages, to make it sound more of a manipulation type thing, or we're going to make it children in cages, so that sounds bad.
Okay. I'm listening.
So then you say, okay, that's what he was doing, and then it rolls into the next administration, into Donald Trump. Okay. Well, obviously, I doubt there's anybody in this country that doesn't know his big thing was we want to build a wall and construct a wall and keep people out. Okay. Now, some of that did work. It reduced illegal immigration by percentage-wise quite a lot. Okay. Some of it was never finished. But he was attempting to do something for it. Agree or disagree, he was attempting to curb that tide. Bring it into the current administration, and I remember this, and you will too. It was actually on the border of Texas where they actually started pulling down the wall. And I thought that was crazy because anything that you could do on either side to help should be done.
Okay.
Now, so we've got three administrations based on what they're doing. Excuse me, three administrations and kind of what they've done with it. But
Okay.
now we're rolling into, okay, we're coming up on another election.
Yep.
What do these candidates say about it now? What do they want to do?
Okay.
Donald Trump obviously wants to continue with the wall, has openly said he wants to do the biggest deportation possible. Kamala Harris hasn't said a whole lot as a candidate, but I think there's been a whole lot of misconceptions. One,
Okay.
she was called a border czar, but that wasn't quite what, that was like a tagline that was given to her. That wasn't quite what she was put in charge of. She was put in charge of deal with the country south of the border and talk to them about how we can slow the tide of illegal immigrants coming in, which interestingly, Mexico has picked up on stopping people on their end. So therefore, you can't say that she was a total and utter failure because that was her job. Her job was to go to these countries and say, hey, can you help us with this? We need to curb this. Well, that's kind of what she did.
That's what she did.
So if you're gonna sit there and say, well, she's horrible, she didn't do anything, that's not really true. That's manipulation. Because she actually has done some things.
Right. Yep. I agree.
Has she done enough? No. Was that her fault? Probably yes and no. It's probably more of a mixed answer because, if you want to blame the whole border crisis on Kamala Harris, well, then you should be bringing it all the way back to Ronald Reagan. Every administration.
Let's go there.
Has stopped it. Nobody's come up with a solution. So
keep going because I'm you know me, I'm going to do some research. I'm researching. That's why you see me over here. I'm looking.
Right. Well, I wanted to throw something out at you, just as an opinion. Do you think a border wall is a good idea or not?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No.
Why?
I think so. So first of all, it's not so much that it's a wall, right? But what I do know is that the government has already started, and this has been going on for years. This isn't new. They're going through people's property and they're already building these gates. Here's what's hilarious about that. I think it's the dumbest thing ever because eventually the gate ends. Come on, folks. That's I think. I think
the gate ends?
The gate ends, right? Like it's the earth is so vast and so broad. So help me in understanding, folks, how a wall is going to keep folks out of the country. Because if that's the case, then we should build a wall from Canada all the way down and from the southern portion of the United States, right? So if we're going to do it. But here's where I have my question marks as maybe I'm too creative in the brain, and I'm saying eventually the wall ends. It's got to stop somewhere. It has to stop somewhere. And so
you went into the ocean and
there's
an issue.
And then you have an issue. But then also I saw this documentary once. It was just a quick, it wasn't even a documentary. It was like a piece, a journalistic piece where they had gone to someone's home and the woman was showing how during the Obama administration, they had literally put a gate on her property and she had no say in the matter. But you know what they left her with? They left her with a key so that she could go in and out. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing I had ever seen. So I find it idiotic to consider the idea that a wall is going to keep people out of the United States. You know how they get in here? They flying in, folks. they're swimming in, they're coming across in ships and other ways. They're visiting families, and then they don't leave, right?
They
So
don't
when
leave.
we're
That is a
talking,
big part. Yes.
yeah, so we're not, and when we're talking about border security, I understand, because hear me out. I understand that immigration is an issue, but it's a bigger issue because I have such a big heart. I want to know why you're here. I want to know how come you chose America out of every other place that you could have gone to seek a better way of life. Because you just didn't come here because you thought that you could come here and live the way you were living in the country that you came from. I don't care if it's from France or Africa or New Zealand or whatever, wherever you came from and you ended up here, you came here because somehow or another you believed that this was going to be the place that you were going to get a new start for you, your family, for your future, right?
You don't immigrate anywhere to have a work life.
Right. At least in my mind, I'm thinking about the men, the women, the children, the babies, the unborn who are coming across either from the southern or northern or the air or whatever to come here to do better, to live better, and to be better. Now, therein lies the place where if you're going to do it right. Because I got to do it right. Right? If I'm going to drive a car, I need to have a what? A driver's license.
Yes.
To get my to prove that I am supposed to be legally working in the United States of America, I have to fill out an I-9 document, right? So that means I have to go and do list A, government issued photo ID, right? And then the second one, I can use my birth certificate, a social security card, visa, 0551, whatever. All of those documents are eligible to be used to prove my eligibility as an American citizen to work here legally. Now, where I have my issue for me personally, forgive me, I know I'm long-winded. The issue that I have is that we are constantly only looking at the bad folks that come here. Right. And then it gets exasperated. And we only focus on the people that are coming here with ill will intent from the beginning, or those who come here and get desperate and do things that cause them to do things that are pretty bad. So I'm going to stop there because I hear you got something to say, but I've got.
Oh, I do. I disagree with you on the wall only because I never expected a wall to put a stop to people coming across the border. But if it drops it, let's say in some places, it would drop it down to 20% of what it was. Okay. I'm good with that. They've got tunnels that come under too. So, a wall doesn't help a whole lot.
That part. Yes.
I think the issue that you just brought up about people overstaying their visas, I think that is a much bigger issue than whatever gets talked about. And yes, if you're on the Republican side of the fence and you're talking about the border, you're saying we've got fentanyl coming in like crazy, which is true. We've got human trafficking going on, which is also true. Which to me is basically modern day slavery. Yes. You're buying and selling humans and children. That's slavery if you're stuck in that situation. So those things are true. The other side is what you brought up, and I'm glad you did. There are people coming here wanting asylum, wanting to work, wanting to follow our guidelines and do everything legally.
That's right.
And I think that will roll us quite into our next topic, which is, I want to jump here to people who are actually seeking asylum. And you and I both have people that we know personally that have done everything right. They came here legally. They filled out the paperwork. They, they have their job status, etc. and it still takes them 15, 20 years to become a
Yeah,
citizen. That's ridiculous.
that's insane to me. Insane.
That is, and I have personal friends who went through that, and I've also seen them become a U.S. citizen, and that's one of the happiest days of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
just to be able to say that they're now a citizen of the United States.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
in those cases, and I'm gonna bring up a quote from one of the candidates, and I'll bring it up from Robert Kennedy, which I actually really agreed with.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this, but what he said was one of the very first thing he would do was send hundreds of judges, asylum judges, to the border to speed things up.
Yeah.
That's a great idea
Mm-hmm.
because you've got such an overwhelming number of people who want to be here,
Yes.
here, as you say,
Yeah.
doing the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
following the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Then by all means, let's speed up that process because it's a little ridiculous.
It is.
So I really liked what he said about that.
Mm-hmm.
You still have the other. You're going to have to patrol it, police it. You've got the good and the bad all intermixed. And I don't think we should let in all the bad along because there's some good. And I don't think we should exclude some good because there's also bad in there.
Right.
We've got to be able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go backwards to something you said.
Okay.
Let me just throw this to you. The fact that it takes 20 years to become an American citizen, a U.S. citizen. Who do you blame for that?
Well, the process, I think, is too long. So, of course, while you were talking about this, I wanted to pull it up, and I'm on USCIS.gov, Humanitarian Refugees and Asylum. Affirmative. There's a couple of different things. There's the affirmative action asylum process, and it talks about the steps of how to apply, and what that means, and who you get to help you do that. Any security and background checks that you need to, and actually going through the process of, if you need to, getting a humanitarian attorney to work on your behalf. So listen to what I just said. So now you got to find somebody to help you. In the interim of all of this, you got to apply for all of these different things. That's money most of these people do not have. So the first thing that they're going to try to do when they get here is do what? Find some kind of work underground. They can, because they gotta eat, they gotta live, they gotta sleep, and they have to stay under the radar until they can afford to get an attorney that's going to help them with the immigration. So then that's one part. But the other, so who do we blame? There's no one to really blame, because I think that would be the wrong place to put the energy. The energy should be in, how do we fix it? What's the problem? It takes too damn long.
That's about as succinct as it can be.
I mean, at the end of the day, if it takes too long, then how do we fix it? Because if we sit around and we play the blame game, it's going to be another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 administrations, and we're still going to be stuck dealing with the exact same thing. And I don't think that at this point, while we're pointing fingers at, say, for instance, like you said, Kamala Harris or Barack Obama, which he did. I looked it up, y'all. I just want you all to know, don't get mad at the messenger, because, Dave, you are correct. Barack Obama.
Yep.
Woo! Each year, he peaked during the first years of Obama's presidency. The number of immigrants he deported from the U.S. increased each year, peaking at 409,849 total deportations in the fiscal year of 2012 alone. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. Y'all can get mad if you want to. It was every year to increase. Yep.
It's true. And
yep.
The ones, to me, and it's just personal opinion, to me, the ones you want to deport are the problems. The ones who actually have ill intent to come here, to human traffic, to bring in drugs. Those are the ones you want to get rid of.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. But real quick, I in terms of what we were talking about, the question that you asked me, there's no one to blame. David, how do we blame people for pieces of administrations that have been put together over the years that they didn't have anything to do with. And they're being placed at a desk and they say, fix it. Well, I got to go back 20, 30 years, stacks of this and stacks of that. What are we doing?
Right. Yes.
How do you do that?
Actually, for me, from my perspective on that,
yeah,
it's kind of everyone holds some accountability there.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't blame Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, because this has been going on for so long, as you said, with so many administrations. It almost feels like they don't really want to fix it so that they can use it as a political tool. And because, you think
so?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Because it's one of those things where if you're in Congress and you can set aside that little R or that little D that's behind your name, just set that aside as human beings and sit down and go, okay, we've got people who legitimately need asylum, want to come in legally and do the right thing. So let's look at that. We've got people who we really need to get rid of because they're coming here with ill intent. Let's look at that. But now let's go back. This problem keeps escalating on top of each other because we're taking so long to do it.
Yeah.
If we didn't, if we sped up the process, streamline the process might be a better word, and do it together, then we could actually make serious headway in fixing the entire problem.
Right.
If we just drop those little initials at the end of our names and work together on something.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you on that part. Yeah.
They look at it and how many times have you or I witnessed one side is for something, so the other side votes completely against it?
Right.
Even when it could be something good.
I agree.
Let them have credit because that ruins their election chances. Is your political power more important than what's good for the American people? That's what it feels
Absolutely, it is. I mean, we're watching it even in this election season. We're seeing ego on one side of the fence. It's all about him, and I'm disappointed in that. Again, I'm looking at all factors, but when we're the first thing that comes out of your mouth is you elect me and there will be no more presidencies. There will be no more elections. This will be the last time that you'll ever have to do it. When I heard this man say that, I thought,
yep,
it's never been about the people. Even the people that are voting for him, it's never been about them. It's been about how do I get to rule the world in any sense? And then how do I position myself to get rid of democracy? That's where I have my concern. And it bothers me. It really, really does.
I've heard that, and we briefly talked about that in the last episode, that particular thing, if you vote that side in, we'll never have another election. I've heard this on both sides.
Yeah.
And you pointed out, yes, that's fear mongering. Obviously I do disagree with you somewhat on Donald Trump, although I've got a number of issues with Donald Trump. And I think it's to say that his supporters would support him in becoming a dictator. I don't believe that. I know too many Trump supporters that would not put up with it. They would not want that. Yeah. It's one of those little manipulation games where we're going to say that whole entire group is bad.
Right.
When there are absolutely some that are bad.
Yeah.
But not there are.
But I think
he has an ego that is out of this world. He really does. And one of the issues that I see with him on that is, I say two issues. One, you are human. You don't have the right answer for everything. And none of us do. That's a part of being human. Two, I'm not hearing a whole lot from either side about, hey, let's work together to solve something. And I hate that because it's like we used to at one time in this country, you could see, the bipartisan bills, and they actually
Yes.
would try to help the citizens. They don't do
Mm-hmm.
that so much anymore. It's if you say the sky
Mm-hmm.
is blue, I'll say it's red.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of that mentality.
Yeah,
And that mentality only hurts all of us.
it does.
I look at
Because nothing gets done. It gets back to what you were saying. Nothing gets done.
nothing is done. And I have issues with the other side. I mean,
Yeah.
I can pull Kamala Harris has changed positions on things.
Yeah.
Okay. That's true. That's not a knock. That just happens to be what it is. But it happens because of an election. I will say whatever I need to say
To get in.
to try to get elected.
Yeah.
And that's across the board.
Right.
And I am not against a changing of opinion. And I'll use Barack Obama as an example because I really admired this. Barack Obama came out when he was president, and he talked about how his personal view of gay marriage had evolved over the years.
Right.
Whereas when he's very young in his career, he was against it, but it kind of evolved over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I really respected him saying that, even though a lot of people, went after him for it, because on that particular subject line, my views evolved over the years too.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start out in your early 20s, let's say in politics, and you never have an opinion change throughout your entire career, you didn't learn much. You didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what if you're actually learning, if I'm sitting here listening to you and I learn something new and I ignore it, well, that's my fault.
Right.
When you take that opportunity to learn, and if you do that, you actually get better. We're seeing it now where it is so divisive. It is so insanely divisive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a manipulation from both sides saying, oh, these Trump supporters are bad. They want to do all this. Mm-hmm. Or these Democrats are all bad. They want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I hear that, I just cringe going, this is not real. This is not true.
Right.
True is you and I sitting down and having an opinion and having a difference of opinion and still supporting each other and wanting each other to do better.
Right.
And helping each other.
Right.
That's what you would like to see in this country.
Yeah.
You pick your poison, pick your side, pick your Sean Hannity's or your Joy Reid's or Mark Levin or you pick all these and you go,
right.
You're causing more problems than you're creating.
I agree with that.
Because the truth of the matter is typically, and I loved how you did that a little bit ago, the truth of the matter tends to be different than what is portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we got fentanyl, we got human trafficking, we got blah, 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 blah. And you go, well, wait a minute. You've also got overstayed their visa. You've also got people coming across the border from Canada. You've also got actual families who legitimately want to do everything the right way. I don't want my kids to starve. I think there's a better opportunity here. Absolutely. That's what I'd like to do.
Yes.
And how many of us have actually seen Mexican families and you go, they're just trying to do the same thing I am. Feed my children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fault that. I don't. I think the process itself, the U.S. process of people coming in is hurting the good families who really just want to be a part of the American dream.
Exactly. And that was my point in what I was saying. And it's a sad thing to see we're blaming people that just want to do better.
Yes.
Right? Not just Mexican families that are coming in. They're coming in through the southern border from all over the world. And they're coming from Canada. And like I said before, they're flying in. And
of course,
and
we're coming to visit, and we're going to stay because it's better. Yes.
Exactly. And so it's so many different variables and factors that have us where we currently are. But now I'm going to tell you where I have drawn the line on a couple of things. There are, from what I'm understanding and what I've seen in the news, where some of these folks are being dropped off in major cities like Chicago. Yes. And they're being given an allotment to live on and to get the help and the support that they need. And the local community of folks, because they're dropping them off in urban communities, are pissed, and rightfully so.
Yes. Can't argue there.
To say that I can't get help. It was the guy, he was like, I'm homeless. I work, I get up and go to work every single day, and I can't make enough money to keep a house. Yet they come across the border, haven't earned a thing, and my hard-earned tax dollars, y'all literally putting in their pockets. I'm just paraphrasing what he said, of course.
Right.
And it's not right. It's not right. They need to leave. I don't care where you all put them. They need to leave because they've been housed and given the food and clothing and everything else that they need. Yes. So the question that I have, I'm going to pose this question, is when is enough and too much all at the same time when it comes to supporting individuals who want to come over here? And when do we say to our government, if you're going to do it for them, the people that need the help now, that have been here since they were born, should be able to get the same support as needed until they can get on their feet. And yes, I know what that sounds like. That sounds like welfare. That sounds like, food stamps. But that's what it is, right? And it was never meant for people to stay on. It was only meant for people to use until they could get on their feet. Right?
Food stamps for anyone was supposed to be temporary to get on your feet, and then you're taking care of yourself. I'm glad you brought that up because, and here's the way I kind of view this. If we're living in our neighborhood, you and I are in the same neighborhood, we're living in our neighborhood, and let's say that there are 50 families in that neighborhood, and we're all dead broke and struggling to eat, struggling to live. And we have hearts. We want to help other people. But the first person you're going to feed is your own children.
That's right. That's right.
You're going to feed your own children first, and then anything you have extra, you will happily and gladly help others.
Give to others. Absolutely.
So if you extrapolate that to the U.S., it seems like they're deciding to take care of the others before their own children.
And that's how it looks.
And I have a real problem with that because we have too many people in this country that, through no fault of their own, they're wanting to do better. They want to work. They want to have their own home. And you're making it 10 times harder on them, taking their money and giving it to somebody else.
Yes.
And so you're penalizing your own people.
Right.
For someone else. And there's all kinds of variables involved. But if you look at it from that perspective, could you blame him? The man that you listen to, do you blame him at all for what he said? No, you can actually understand it.
Yep.
You can understand it and agree with him. It's like, no, I don't want to see veterans homeless, when that we've got just through lack of space.
Yeah.
They sent illegals to 5-star hotels to live in.
I've seen that. That was in New York, wasn't it? And they were giving PlayStations and flat screens TVs and all this stuff. And then when they told them that it was time for them to leave, they didn't want to leave.
Well, I don't really blame them for not wanting to leave. I'm getting all this for free, and I'm sitting here in this huge, wonderful place and getting all this stuff. It's kind of hard to be told.
Blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of talk about something that you mentioned earlier, and it was about Kamala Harris.
Yes.
And how in her borders, the Border Czar name that we've been hearing a lot of. And so I wanted to kind of give some facts, guys, because of course you want to make sure that we're not just giving banter. We actually have facts to back up the things that we're talking about here. And so you brought it up earlier in a conversation where you said that she's not the Border Czar, even though they've given her this name. And so I wanted to give some key facts really quick. So the Trump campaign and his allies have made Harris's handling of the border crisis into one of their main attacks against her in recent weeks at the Republican National Convention, which of course we know just passed. And now that she's taken over Joe Biden's presidential position as the current DNC nominee, the House passed a resolution. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. 220 to 196 that strongly condemns the Biden administration and its border czar. But here's what we need to know about her. Biden tapped Harris in March of 2021 to lead a much more narrow diplomatic effort, like you said, to curb migration from the Northern Triangle countries, which are Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, and address the root causes for why residents there immigrate to the U.S. in the first place, along with enhancing other countries' borders that those migrants travel through along the way before they get to the U.S. She was never asked with managing border security. She was never tasked with managing border security in the U.S., which is under the purview of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who said in June of 2021, Harris is leading our nation's efforts to address the root causes, the fundamental question of why people leave their homes, while he is addressing the security and management of the border. Ding, ding, ding. So people have taken this whole thing and said that this is all on her. This is all on her. He just made it clear. And like you said, she was just there to help people figure out why. We got to get to the root cause of why people find it necessary to continue to keep coming to the U.S. And it's as simple as that.
And so why would you think that the Republicans would focus on her instead of Mayorkas? Because he's in charge of the border.
Did a light bulb go off in my head? Yes. Because she's the one running for president, not Mayorkas.
That's exactly right. So we've got to tie in. And do I think Mayorkas has done a great job? No, I don't. Mm-hmm. But when you can actually see the reports of, well, that has slowed, but it's not from it's from actually what she did when she went down and slowed it from the other side of it.
Yeah.
And checking those root causes and go, okay, poverty itself is typically not a reason for asylum. It's you know, let's say that you're looking for asylum because political persecution.
Yeah.
You know, we're taking all the followers of this particular candidate in another country and we're trying to kill them. Okay, that's a reason to ask for asylum.
Okay.
To say that I just want more money, poverty, no, that's not a reason. But there's two different ways. Asylum is where you're granted entry because you're in danger.
Yeah.
Well, by all means. But then immigration, which is separate, says, okay, I'm applying to go to work in the United States and I'm coming in and I'm going through the process and it's taken me 20 years because the process is so bad. So you've got two different things going on here. And that's why I liked Robert Kennedy saying, we're going to send hundreds of asylum judges down there. You find out why you're coming. What's, you know, if you're in danger of being killed because of it, you're in the middle of a war zone and you've got children. Oh, okay. Well, now you're looking at what would be considered asylum. You're trying to save the life of yourself and your family. That to me is a good reason. Yeah. Because we would all take our kids somewhere else if we were in danger of being killed where we are.
Oh, absolutely. 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 We will. So I think bringing this up was so important, and to kind of read the facts so people understood where this is coming from, because people need to know the facts, like you said, and get the emotion out of it, and stop believing everything that you're hearing in the news about this particular issue, which it still continues to be like a sore spot in the US. But I'm going to ask another question, and I'm just curious. What bothers you the most about immigration, people coming here who were not born here? Does it bother you that they're doing it illegally? Does it bother you that they come here or is it, I guess the question, so let me back up. Let me say this. In my head, all I can think about are the people that I have met personally who went about it the back doorway, got here, and did what they needed to do because they already had somebody here. They just needed to get here. There's always somebody here.
Of course. Yeah.
And I always felt so bad for them that they had to go through that, because all they were trying to do was literally put a roof over their head because they didn't have one in the place that they came from. And all they want to do is have someplace safe, because drug czars and gangs and so forth and everything are out there in their countries, and it's rampant. Not like it's not here, but there are places that you can go where you can feel safer. And it is, parts of it are in the US. I'm not saying all of the US is like that. So for those people that are going to be watching this, don't think that I have rose-colored glasses on. I do not. What I guess my question is, what in your head, when you hear immigration, illegal immigration, or just border security, bothers you the most about people coming here, knowing that they have to go through the process, but they don't? I think that's a better way to put it.
It's actually a tricky question, because depending on what I'm looking at specifically. Obviously, if it's the people coming here with ill intent, to me, and this sounds harsh, but if you're a human trafficker, wouldn't bother me a bit if you were shot at the border and killed. Because if you're selling children, I have no sympathy whatsoever. Period.
Okay.
If you're bringing in loads of fentanyl, and the fentanyl stats on how many U.S. citizens it's killing is unreal.
Yeah.
So I have obviously very, very strong opinions in those regards. But let's take that out, and I'll try to answer your question based upon the example you gave. Somebody came in through the back door. They actually don't have bad intentions. They trying to get to somebody, perhaps a relative, and just want to work and want to do something. And why do I have an issue with that? My issue with that is, I know it's difficult, but I think it should be done the right way. You know, when we do something, it's kind of like saying, okay, I need a lot of money. I'm going to work and wait and save up and whatnot rather than rob a bank. And that's kind of the issue I have with it. Although at the same time, I can have a whole lot of sympathy for the asylum. If asylum comes in here, it's a legitimate claim and they're immediately brought in, I have zero issue with that. None. You know, good. If it saves your life, wonderful.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity to immigrate legally, I think you should do that. But along those same lines, that process really needs major overhaul. I think it's unacceptable for the U.S. to make a process that takes 20 years. I really do.
Yeah. And I think do you think that that's the reason why so many people do it the way that they do, because they know how long it takes?
I think so. I think a lot of people do it for that exact reason.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting in one of those countries and I want to come to the U.S. and go, okay, it's going to take me 5 years just to get in, or I can sneak across the border, go stay with a relative, and then kind of work. I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand the thinking process behind it.
Yes.
Um, but at the same time, yes, despite what people's hearts and if you want to believe, coming in illegally is a crime.
It is.
Do you remember
Yeah.
the big brouhaha when they're going, well, they're separating children from their parents? Well, actually, the parents got arrested for coming in illegally. And that happens to all of us. If we break the law, we're going to be separated from our children because we're going to be arrested and taken to jail. That separation happens. It's horrible. It really is. Especially to me, if you're coming across and your intentions are, I want to feed my kids. I want to work. I don't want a free handout. I just want the ability to work and take care of my family. I respect
So
that.
now, I'm thinking about the parents whose children were ripped from their arms and the babies were put in cages and made to sleep under what looked like aluminum foil. I'm thinking about the children who will never be reunited with their parents because the parents were sent back and they're trying to still get back with their children and it never happens. And so some happy-go-lucky freaking family ends up adopting these babies and indoctrinating them with American values, and they never get to know or see their people again. And I've seen it.
Of course, the news showed the pictures of the cages and all this, and the way they called it cages, and it was like, yeah, one administration had them built, the next administration used them, and they're separating the families. And yes, it's because a law was broken.
But babies, we're talking babies. We're not talking about adults. We're talking. Yes. Now we're not
talking about an adult who broke the law, got arrested, got deported, and then the baby got stranded here.
And where that is, where I find that the children should never have been. This is where we're going to disagree. They shouldn't have ever removed those children from their parents. If you're gonna corral them together. Keep those families together. At the end of the day, that should have been priority number one. Right? I don't
disagree. I don't disagree if you're rounding up the family and you're deporting the whole family. Why would you just deport the adults and leave the kids?
That's what I didn't understand. Here's the other thing.
I actually agree with you on that point.
Yeah. What I didn't understand was having a 3-year-old sit in front of a judge and read them their rights in the language they don't freaking understand. Help me to understand that.
I didn't see that one, but I think it's
it happened. It happened.
I believe you. Here's the problem.
It's disgusting. It was so disgusting. But then I could go down this road, but I'm not because we're talking about immigration. So right. It's unfortunate. So
I think what you're saying is it's actually shows how messed up the process is, how messed up the border is.
Yeah.
Because those things should not happen.
Ever.
Yes, if you're taken to jail, let's play that scenario out. You come across as a family, the parents are arrested and taken to jail, but then they're going to deport the parents. Well, then the parents need to be reunited. That family needs to be reunited. If you're going to deport them, you keep the family together. And I have a big issue with that. That's what should happen because that child is innocent. I have a 3-year-old. It wouldn't matter what language you told him his rights were in a court of law. He would just look at you like, I have no idea. Wouldn't understand a thing.
Right.
So I think probably you saying the variables. There's so many different things to do. And yeah, there's pieces of this that you and I disagree on, but there's pieces that we strongly agree on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neither one of us want the human trafficking or the drugs, at all, and don't have a whole lot of sympathy for people getting caught that are doing it.
It's the regular folks that just want a better life.
We can also feel bad for the families and the children.
That's right.
Especially the children, especially children who have no say in the matter whatsoever.
No, they're just along for the ride. They didn't ask for this. mommy's pregnant with a sibling. She's got one on the hip, and then she's got to leave two behind because she's trying to get here so she can work and send the money back so that she can do what she needs to do, right? And
and nobody in their right mind tries to hold a 3-year-old accountable for something like that.
No, it's not their fault. It's none of this. And so, there's so many, like you said, there's so many different variables, because then we could talk about DACA, and where children were given asylum based upon the DACA law. So I wanted to kind of look at that just a little bit. Deferred action for childhood arrivals. That was actually signed under the Obama administration, 2012. And that was an executive order that allow undocumented immigrants who have been brought to the United States as children to apply for renewable 2-year periods of deferred action from deportation, allowing them to remain in the country and make them eligible for work permits. Although DACA targeted some of the same thorny social issues as the DREAM Act, that's another issue right there, it does not provide for a path to citizenship for those enrolled. So I think see therein lies another hole that we're talking about. So if DACA didn't provide that road, how come it didn't?
My gut reaction says because it was an executive order. It was not something gone through Congress, and therefore it was not passed into law. But let's play this out. Let's say that you have on DACA, you have a 10-year-old who's eligible under DACA and defers it, and now has gone through school, knows more about the U.S. than any country they've come from.
Yep.
To me, and I didn't hear you say it with that executive order, but DACA may not have allowed for a path to citizenship, but why didn't it allow for them to apply for citizenship, legal immigration status? It should. You've deferred it for 2 years. Hey, let's go ahead and apply for legalization status while it's being deferred, so that when DACA runs out, well, now you're here legally, you're working, you're productive, you're a citizen, or on your way to being a citizen, then what's the problem?
Now, I do know of one individual. I knew of a young man that came from Africa, who, sharp young man, came in the U.S. under DACA, went all the way through college, graduated, got his master's degree, and it was 3 years ago that he finally became an American citizen. So he had been working and deferring all of those years. And I remember him screenshotting where he actually went and got his documentation, and his parents had flown over from Africa to be with him on that day that he became an American citizen.
Oh, absolutely.
He was so proud and so excited. But I remember him saying to me, the process was so long, and had he not been in a position to pay for the legal help that he got, he would still be, doing, but he was, he works in corporate America. He's doing really well. I know he works for Apple now, has moved out to California, doing really, really well. Those are the people that I'm talking about, that he followed the letter of the law, and he started to do the research on his own to find out what else needed to be done. But then life gets to life in some of us, you know what I mean? And things happen where we can't do all of the things that we want to do when we want to do them. And so what happens to those people that get lost in the cracks because the job wasn't paying enough, or they got laid off, or, there was a, maybe potential, immigration raid, and I have to hide, and, those kinds of things. What happens to those people?
That is an issue. Of course, the way you said it, we all experience that in our lives, things that we want to do that we can't for whatever reason. We're just not in the situation of we're about to be deported because of it.
Right.
There's a little bit of a difference there. I'm not, to me, on let's just call it deferral. We're just going to defer it for a little while. To me, by that time, if someone already has a history of working not breaking our laws, etc. That they're actually trying really hard to do the right thing and to become a citizen.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we defer that for a couple of years? Hey, you lost a job, but your history has shown that you're trying to do things right. Well, I'm not against that. Even from someone who leans on the right here, I'm not against that at all. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you got to go.
Yeah.
Why? We got enough people that need to go rather than going after the ones that are actually trying. And so this political manipulation tool is one side says everybody coming across as bad. The other side says, no, they're just people looking for a new life. Well, no, it's actually in the middle here. We've got good and bad, and and in reality, we want to remove the bad and keep the good.
Yeah.
So it should not be all or nothing. And you're going to hate hearing this, but I think you actually agree with some Republican points on these issues.
Yeah,
and I agree with some Democrat points on these issues.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not forced to be pigeonholed into agreeing with everything that whatever party you align with says, and even have different views on individual issues. We're individuals. We're allowed to do that. Despite what we're being told, we're allowed to actually have those individual thinkers. We can actually think.
Absolutely.
And I really wanted to take this episode on that because I knew that you and I had spoken briefly about it off air. And I saw where it just kind of overlapped, where we disagree, but we also agree. And it goes back and forth. And I think the complexity of the U.S. citizen is much more valid than being pigeonholed into any particular box.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
If there's not anything else, this is probably, I think, a good place to end this episode.
Yes. Well, let's do a quick call to action. First of all, we want to make sure that you guys are heading over to the Facebook page for Balanced with Dave Lowery. Want to make sure that you're doing that and heading over there. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the bottom of the screen. I've got the wrong mouse, y'all. I got too many computers. I do.
So many jobs.
Yes, I'm doing so much. So you want to make sure that you're heading over to Balanced. Hang on. Let me tell you, I do so much. I'm going to edit that. And it's Balanced. And it's on Facebook. Y'all don't want to miss this. Wrong keyboard. You didn't see me do that, right? So Facebook. It's Balanced with Dave Lowery. Definitely want to make sure that you are getting your fill of the show. And then I spelled it wrong, so I'm going to hide it again. I should have had it ready, right? So anyway.
Oh, that's one of those things you would have told me to make sure I had ready.
And it's okay because every once in a while things happen, and it's called being live. So this is what we do here in the Brownstone. Make sure that you check out Balance with Dave Lowery. Something else that I want you guys to do is to check out the Brownstone Living magazine issue, where Dave Lowery is actually featured as one of our new neighbors in the People in the Neighborhood. And you have joined our little community of other air personalities as well as we continue to grow. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know to be on the listen and lookout. Be on the listen and lookout for Balanced on the Facebook group page, as well as cityscaperadio.com and the app, and on brownstoneworldwide.com/BWTV and YouTube. I've done my part.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you'll look forward to the next episode of Balanced.
All right, you guys. See you around.